Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe.
A common phrase thrown around this year has been that we as wrestling fans should be grateful considering the quality of wrestling we've seen throughout the year. And you know what? The people that say that are absolutely right. The quality of wrestlers throughout the planet has increased exponentially, with the WWE main roster being possibly the most gifted roster of all time, and with the birth of AEW and it spurring NXT to greater heights, the Wednesday Night Wars have provided us with great wrestling every week. That, plus companies like New Japan, Rev Pro, Ring of Honor, and PWG leveling up their output as well, 2019 truly has been a stellar year for in-ring wrestling. So in this video, we'll be going through every 5-star and above match as ranked by Dave Meltzer. And yes, before you comment, we know Dave Meltzer isn't the be-all and end-all. This is his opinion, we have our own, you have your own, but it's an interesting list to look at, and it's a good guideline of matches to watch if you've missed any bangers from this year, because spoilers, there's been a lot. So without further ado, here's every 5-star and above match in 2019. Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Kenny Omega at Wrestle Kingdom 13, 5.75 stars. Wouldn't you know it, the event on January 4th has the first match on this list, which also happens to be tied for the highest rated of the year. Kenny Omega defended his shiny title against Hiroshi Tanahashi in the main event of the show, in his final appearance for New Japan before joining All Elite Wrestling. The story of the match was that of each wrestler's philosophy and how that clashed, with Tanahashi being forced to wrestle more of Omega's style in order to win, which he eventually did, hitting the high fly flow for his 8th IWGP Heavyweight Championship reign. Kazuchika Okada versus Sanada, New Japan Cup Final, 5 stars. There were some amazing matches in the New Japan Cup this year, but they definitely saved the best till last with Okada versus Sanada. Okada eventually managed to win with his Rainmaker, further fueling the story of his redemption back to the top after losing the Heavyweight Championship in 2018. Johnny Gargano versus Adam Cole, NXT TakeOver New York, 5.5 stars. This match became the highest rated match in the entirety of WWE's history, and for a good reason. This 2 out of 3 falls match for the vacant NXT Championship the night before WrestleMania 35 was some of Johnny Gargano and Adam Cole's best work, turning the crowd who were solidly against Gargano winning in the early stages into a rabid crowd who wanted nothing more than to see Gargano win. And they did. Gargano fought off all 4 members of the Undisputed Era to pick up the gold in one of the top matches in NXT history. Will Ospreay versus Bandido, Best of the Super Juniors Day 8, 5 stars. This is the first time Will Ospreay's name has appeared on this list, but it definitely won't be the last. Putting on the best match in the tournament up to this point, Ospreay and Bandido tore the house down, with Ospreay becoming the victor to advance in the tournament. This will not be the last we hear of the Best of the Super Juniors on this list either. Cody versus Dustin Rhodes, AEW's Double or Nothing, 5 stars. Receiving the same star rating as the last match, but for entirely different reasons, Cody and Dustin Rhodes put on probably the most emotional match of the year. Double or Nothing saw the two brothers put on the match they had always wanted to have in WWE, and it blew people away. Some people, such as myself, didn't think the pair had it in them, but boy was I wrong. The emotional climax of the match, followed with the post-match angle of reconciliation, is as close to tears as I've been watching wrestling in quite some time, and a true tribute to Dusty Rhodes. Adam Cole versus Johnny Gargano, NXT TakeOver 25, 5.25 stars. In the follow-up to their TakeOver New York match 2 months previous, Cole and Gargano once again put on a clinic. This time, Cole was able to pick up the W, but simply by just outsmarting Gargano with a wonderful callback to their previous encounter. Gargano got distracted, Cole hit the last shot, and won the NXT Championship. To date, these two are the only wrestlers in WWE history to have 2 matches against each other rated 5 stars or higher. They're pretty good wrestlers. Will Ospreay versus Shingo Takagi, Best of the Super Juniors Final, 5.75 stars. Furthering on from his Day 8 5-star match against Bandido, Ospreay got an extra 3/4 of a star against Shingo Takagi in the final of the Best of the Super Juniors. Takagi to this point had been undefeated since joining New Japan in 2018, and this match played off that and Takagi's strength versus Ospreay's speed perfectly. Ospreay picks up the win to crown himself Best of the Super Juniors, handing Takagi his first loss in New Japan. Will Ospreay versus Dragan Lee, New Japan's Dominion, 5 stars. 4 days after after his last 5-star match, Ospreay is back once again, this time against Dragan Lee at New Japan's Dominion for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship. Ospreay once again picked up the win to reclaim the title, which in many ways was Ospreay's peak of 2019, as the best of the Super Juniors built to this pinnacle. After his win, Ospreay then announced himself as a participant in this year's G1. I wonder if we'll see any of those matches on this list. Kota Ibushi versus Will Ospreay, G1 Climax Day 5. 5 stars. He's here once again, that pesky Ospreay, this time in a rematch from their Wrestle Kingdom 13 match on Day 5 of the G1 Climax. Ospreay worked over Ibushi's ankle, while Ibushi targeted Ospreay's neck. The outcome of the match was flipped from their Wrestle Kingdom match, with Ibushi coming out the victor to pick up his first win to date in the 2019 G1. Jon Moxley versus Tomohiro Ishii, G1 Climax Day 6. 5 stars. The day after Ospreay and Ibushi's 5-star classic, Jon Moxley and Tomohiro Ishii knocked it out of the park with their own 5-star match. This was the match that cemented Moxley outside of WWE, with him reminding everyone of that fact in a post-match promo as well. This was Moxley's Japanese coming out party, but that's not to say Ishii didn't remind everyone that he is also bloody brilliant as well. Kazuchika Okada versus Will Ospreay, G1 Climax Day 7. 5.75 stars. Wasn't long before Ospreay was back, was it? This time he was facing Kazuchika Okada the day after Moxley and Ishii's 5-star match, and 2 days after his last 5-star match too. As both are members of Chaos, there was definitely a brotherly vibe to the match, with both trying to outdo each other. This is definitely a you need to see it to believe it kind of match, with Okada picking up the win over Ospreay. Bandido, Flamita, and Rey Horus versus Puma King, Black Taurus, and Laredo Kid. PWG 16th anniversary show, 5 stars. And now for something slightly different. PWG matches are definitely harder to track down than most others on this list, but in this case, it's worth it. Bandito, Flamita, and Rey Horus face Puma King, Black Taurus, and Laredo Kid in a 6-man tag match, which was described by Dave Meltzer as the best PWG match since 2016 and one of the best American matches of the decade. Definitely worth a watch. Sanada versus Kazuchika Okada, G1 Climax Day 13. 5 stars. Back to the G1 once again, and the first of 7 5-star and above matches in August. Hot damn. Sanada faced Okada in a match that was almost a must-win for Sanada, considering he had always failed to beat Okada up until now. Sanada just managed to put Okada away before the time limit draw came into effect. 13 seconds away from that, in fact. Tetsuya Naito versus Shingo Takagi, G1 Climax Day 14, 5 stars. 1 day later, one more 5-star match. This time, it's Tetsuya Naito against Shingo Takagi, who up to this point has had a cracker of a 2019. As fellow LIJ stablemates, the tension was high between them, but as it transpired in the match, Takagi couldn't adjust to the heavyweight division quite enough, and Naito picked up the win, solidifying his status as the leader of LIJ. Shingo Takagi versus Tomohiro Ishii, G1 Climax Day 16, 5.5 stars. 4 days later, good God, the G1 is great, isn't it? Takagi's back at it again, this time against Tomohiro Ishii. It feels like at this point, if you need to have a great match, just face Ishii, because he will get the best out of you. Takagi and Ishii put on one of the best matches in this year's G1, with Takagi picking up one of his few wins in the tournament. Kota Ibushi versus Kazuchika Okada, G1 Climax Day 17, 5 stars. It's been 2 days since the last 5-star match in the G1, about time for another one, isn't it? Kota Ibushi versus Kazuchika Okada in the A block final ended up being a preview for Wrestle Kingdom 14 taking place in a couple of weeks, and boy howdy was it a doozy. And yet despite this being an absolute classic match, it still feels like the pair have a lot left in the tank for their rematch. Very excited for their Wrestle Kingdom 14 match coming soon. Kota Ibushi versus Jay White, G1 Climax Final, 5.5 stars. It's the last G1 match on this list, and fittingly it was the final of the tournament itself. Kota Ibushi versus Jay White was a perfect babyface versus heel match, with the two being arguably the best babyface and heel in New Japan respectively. In one of the most feel-good moments of the year, Ibushi managed to put away the leader of the Bullet Club, winning his first G1 Climax while battling an injured ankle and overcoming the loss of his partner Kenny Omega. What a babyface. Walter versus Tyler Bate, NXT UK Takeover Cardiff. 5.25 stars. The first and only NXT UK match to make this list, but not the only 5-star and above match on this day. August 31st saw NXT UK's Takeover Cardiff, AEW's All Out, and New Japan's Royal Quest, 3 massive shows, and 2 of those events had a match that reached the lofty heights of the 5-star rating. Walter vs Tyler Bate was that match for Takeover Cardiff, which was just the most perfect David vs Goliath match you could ever ask for, considering Walter is pretty much the size of the actual Goliath in the story. In an emotional roller coaster of a match, Walter managed to put away Bate, but it wasn't because of a lack of effort on Bate's part. What a match! Pentagon Jr. and Ray Phoenix versus Matt Jackson and Nick Jackson, AEW All Out, 5.25 stars. And over in AEW, this match at All Out topped the star rating scale with the only ladder match to make this list. Or, sorry, an Escalera de la Muerte match. This, of course, was a very high spot-filled match, with the two teams trying to one-up each other for ridiculous spot points. The highlight of the match was, of course, Pentagon delivering a Canadian Destroyer through a table off a ladder to Matt Jackson. It's frankly absurd and really takes this match to another level. Bandido versus Dragan Lee, PWG Battle of Los Angeles, 5 stars. And finally, we head back to PWG in the Battle of Los Angeles. This match was only 12 minutes in length, which is frankly ridiculous when you consider the amount of stuff that was stuffed into it. This started at 11 and just kept going up and up. An absolute non-stop action match resulting with Bandido picking up the win over Dragan Lee. And that's it! We interestingly haven't had a 5-star or above match since September, but there will no doubt be loads more to come soon in 2020. What was your favorite match of 2019? Let us know down in the comments below, and Merry Christmas. Press the videos to the right to catch up with the latest WrestleTalk awesome things, and make sure to give us a subscribe, a like, and share this video with your family and friends. A special thank you to our pledge hammers on Patreon, some of whom you can see scrolling below me right now. I've been Chopper Pete Quinnell, and that was some really good wrestling.